Okay, so that sort of wraps up the innovations in big data, open data section. And we're going to move into the implications for the public sector section now. So next, I'm going to get the slides up, is Ron McKerlie. He's the Deputy Minister of Open Government, Ontario Ministry of Government Services. Let's do a quick intro here. Ron was appointed Deputy Minister, Open Government, Ministry of Government Services in June 2013. He is tasked with making the Ontario government more open, relevant, and accountable to the public, including changing the model for engaging the public in policy development and increasing public access to government information and data holdings. Which is great.
Perfect.
And this one's you? Which one's you? This one?
This one.
This one. All right. Good. I think should be go. If this isn't working, then just use those guys.
Great. Okay, thanks very much. No break for you guys. You just get to sit through all of us, so that's impressive. The brain can only stand what the rear end can endure, so hopefully you can hang in there for a few more minutes. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about open data, because big data is pretty much all we hold in government. All of our data sets are huge. We measure them in petabytes, so lots and lots of data. Our journey officially began on the open data side back last October with the Premier's public announcement that to the people of Ontario around our commitment to open government. Open letter to the people of Ontario, she wrote, "In this interconnected world, governments must find new ways to inform and engage the people they represent." That's true, but open government is also about making good economic sense. McKinsey & Company published an estimate that said they think that the data that governments hold, if made open, is worth about $3 trillion a year to the global economy. And according to the United States Chief Technology Officer, the geospatial and weather data that they released, which now allows you to have navigation systems in your car and GPS on your phone, injected about $100 billion into the American economy. So this is a big deal. So opening up government data obviously makes sense on many different levels. The work that we're doing in Ontario falls into three streams or areas of focus. The first is open dialogue. It's about increasing opportunities for the public to provide informed and meaningful input into legislation and policies and programs that affect them. This is about the wisdom of crowds. It's about engaging a wide range of stakeholders with different perspectives and ideas on how to approach policy problems, and this goes way beyond the traditional consultations that government is used to doing. We also put together an engagement team this fall who spent part of the winter talking to Ontarians. They're informing our open government work moving forward. I can't tell you this, but there's a press conference tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock, in which case they will present their report to the government, but you don't know that. The second stream of open government is open information, and this means making government information available to the public on a proactive and ongoing basis. Earlier comment, if you have to ask for the data, it's not open. If you have to ask for information, it's not open either. So this is taking information that's frequently requested through the Freedom of Information Protection and Privacy process and making that information available proactively. Within the next few days, you're going to see the Sunshine List come out for the province and for the broader public sector. That's an example of open information. Of course, the third stream is open data, which is it means making government data available in machine-readable format, not PDF, available under an open license so that anybody can take it, they can repurpose it, they can create applications, they can hopefully charge a fee for it, they can generate revenue, and they can pay taxes, which makes everybody in government smile. Of these three streams, probably open data is the largest and probably the most mature. We launched our open data portal back in 2012. It's at ontario.ca/opendata if you want to find it. We worked with the federal government, the province of BC, on the license. The license has now been adopted by others, including the City of Toronto. So we hope this makes it easier and more desirable for those who want to get access to the data to get access to it. We've also recently created an inventory of the data that the government holds that they could release. This is ready to go. We'll be posting the inventory online with a voting tool. We'll be asking the public, municipalities, the research community, developers, public servants, anybody else who cares, to go on to vote on the data that they consider to be most valuable so that we can open it up first. There's just so much data in there and so much cost associated with opening that data that obviously in a time of fiscal constraint, we have to start somewhere. So we want to start with the data that's most important. As part of the outreach into the developer community, we hosted a couple of ideas camps looking at some of our data, specifically our finance, transportation, and education data. One of them was in this room, oddly enough, and it was packed and it was hot. But they went through some of the ideas for what they could do with that data. We held another one in Kitchener. So it brought together a lot of developers, and we're off to a good start in terms of trying to decide what we can actually do with this data. I'd say right now we have just finished sort of phase one. Many of our key deliverables have been completed or in the process of being wrapped up. One of those was the engagement team report. Another one was an open government work plan from every ministry in government. So there are a total of 700 initiatives that are underway right now. There are another 500 ones that are going to be launched within the next few months and will take place over the next year. So about 1,200 open data, open information initiatives. The voting tool we talked about. Last week, we introduced, Monday. What day is this? Whatever, this week? Is this Wednesday already? Holy cow. Monday this week, we introduced a new piece of legislation that just went into the House. It's called the Public Sector and MPP Accountability and Transparency Act. There are 11 different pieces of legislation that are amended, but the whole idea being to start to embed in legislation open information and open data. We're creating, in the process of creating an open data directive, which will make it mandatory that data be released. Obviously, open government comes with its own set of challenges. For one thing, the policy landscape needs to be shifted to more open by default principles. This means that we need to review and change a number of guidelines. When we join the public service, we actually take an oath that says we won't talk to anybody about anything, basically. It's really clamps down tightly on this whole idea of openness. So we've obviously got to look at things like that to try to make the sharing of information and data much more open. The directive that we're creating around open data is in the early stages, but it'll lay out a couple principles. One is that ministries will have to make existing data open wherever possible. And secondly, that any net new data created has to be done with the view that it will be immediately made open once it's created. We'll also have to look at integrating open data into a broader data management strategy. Obviously, there's confidential data and restricted data. There's social media data. There's a whole host of issues that we have to look at. We have some privacy safeguards that we'll have to ensure that we have in place. We're really modeling the access to data after the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Specifically, all data will be protected according to FIPA, and so we will have some carve-outs that we won't release, data we won't release. So these would include anything that is of a private nature or legal privilege or confidential, or there's a security issue. The data that's in scope, releasing following the recommendations from the Information Privacy Commissioner of Ontario. We will aggregate a little bit of data, depersonalize some where there's small cell counts. Obviously, we'd have to suppress those. But the goal is for most data just to be released as low level as we can do that and to make sure that it's available in machine-readable format. Finally, open government represents a huge culture change. This is a request that we're making to 62,000 public servants to think differently. Public servants, I know you won't believe this, but some of us are kind of risk averse. And I know it's hard to believe. But we move cautiously towards new ideas, partly because we're using tax dollars and public information. We have a public trust to uphold, obviously. But there's great value in coming together, and these types of sessions are helpful in terms of moving the message forward. Obviously, we're using the same principles as we would for any other change initiative. Starts with communicating with our staff and our partners and our stakeholders and making sure they understand what the change is about and why we're doing it. Sharing success stories, whether they're our own or others. You've heard a number of them here today, and you saw some of them in the videos. We engaged through an open competitive procurement process, Deloitte, to help us, and they brought in data scientists and analytics folks, and they're working with a number of our ministries, the Ministry of Transportation and Finance and our education ministries, to really develop proof of concepts so that people can understand what they can do with the data, how they can create data visualization so that you can draw insight from it without having to be a data scientist yourself to be able to do that. We're also finding advocates and early adopters. We're engaging them and leveraging their enthusiasm. We're also looking at who our resistors and opponents are so we can take them out completely and just neutralize them. So that we can help them along on this journey. This is tough. Change is always difficult. And so we want to obviously help them to come along in this journey as well. We're setting milestones. We're celebrating successes as we reach them. And of course, coming back to my earlier point, we're working on embedding open government into the day-to-day business of government by renewing the policy landscape, by drafting open data directives and things like that. So, just in conclusion, although open government may not be easy or straightforward, we think it's incredibly worth doing. We think there is huge value in the data. We've already seen some of that, not only for the members of the public, but frankly for public servants as well. The number one user of open data in every jurisdiction we've looked at are the public servants that work in those jurisdictions. The number two users are the public servants that work in other jurisdictions. And you have to go well down the list to get to researchers and developers and the rest of the public. So this is a big deal for us. There's great opportunities for us in this, and we're excited about the journey, and we're just beginning it now. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Ron.